Last summer, I taught a nature-based math workshop as part of a 2-day STEAM camp for preschool teachers. And to kick off our time together at STEAM camp, we did a little get to know you activity where we were asked to arrange ourselves in a line according to different criteria. So, for example, arrange your line based on the number of years that you have been teaching, with the newest teachers at one end of the line and the most senior teachers at the opposite end of the line. Or arrange yourselves based on the distance that you had to travel to get to STEAM camp this year, with locals at one end of the line and the people who traveled the farthest at the opposite end. At one point, we were asked to arrange ourselves based on our comfort level with teaching outside. So, of course, I set myself right at the tail end of the line. But the purpose of this line was each time to generate discussion. And one of the teachers shared that she would love to teach outside more, but she can't because every time she goes outside with the children, they just go crazy. They start running around and they get really loud, and she can't teach with those types of behaviors. Hello, I'm Nicole Dravillas-Fravel, and this is Wildwood Teaching. And I know that I present outdoor learning as the cure, really, for challenging behaviors. And I absolutely believe that that is true. But today I want to talk about behavior challenges that might be specific to taking children outside and how to make sure that they don't become a barrier to nature-based teaching. So first, let's take that issue that came up during STEAM camp. How do you teach outdoors if the outdoors trigger the children to just go crazy? Well, I suspect that this might be happening because this is how we educators, we adults, generally treat outdoor time and how we introduce it to children. We are inside in the morning, taking advantage of that focused time to really hammer in on the academics. We have that circle time. We have our focused math, emergent literacy time. And then we take children outside for a break. Hey, and we are actually telling them, this is your chance to go nuts. We had you inside and you weren't allowed to run and you weren't allowed to climb anything. So go. Okay? And so now, if we are trying to dial it back and we are trying to have them outside and have a little bit of calm, it can be confusing for the children. So the fix is to change what happens before you go outside. So take them outside earlier. Go outside specifically for that focused academic time. Before you get outside, let the children know what you're doing. Let them know what's going to happen. Set those expectations. Make learning outside a regular routine, something that you are doing every day, every week, for whatever, at the same time, every day, so that the children get used to it and it becomes part of their expectation. And then once you have that routine set up of going outside, set up the routine for what you're going to do outside in the same way that you set up your routines at the beginning of the year for how the indoor time is going to flow. And then if you need to, change how you teach to match the children's energy. So if you are doing high energy, gross motor type games, Or set up an outdoor classroom in the same way that you would set up an indoor classroom with different zones and activity areas where children can do art or self-selected science or sensory materials. Another concern that teachers and parents sometimes bring up to me is elopement. What if children run away because you're in the forest and there aren't any fences? And again, this has to be part of setting up expectations before you get outside, or if you are already outside that first day. Let children know that there will be boundaries and where they are. I do this in a number of ways. Sometimes I set up cones, right? Just those little plastic playground cones, right? Here's where we go, here's where we don't go. Jump ropes work well just to kind of set up an area. Sometimes, if we're in a new space in the forest, I'll have all of the children in line and we'll just walk the line around the boundary of where this is where we're going today, right? This is the edges. And as we're walking, I might point out landmarks that can mark their edges. I might point off areas that are off limits. Say there's a dead tree that I'm noticing, and I'm going to say we're not going to climb that one. And at the beginning of the school year, we play a game with the children that helps them learn where they can go and how they need to see and hear teachers at all times. Because if they can see and hear the teacher, it means that the teacher can see and hear them and therefore is able to keep them safe. So we have a little game that where they can practice staying within eye and earshot at all times. And thirdly, along with elopement comes a worry that children will get lost or simply won't get back into line when it's time to go back inside. And I'm going to say the same thing, right? It's another expectation and routine setting and practicing with the children. So at the beginning of the year, we practice. We practice lining up, and we have two different two different ways that we line up. One is the normal lineup where I will play an instrument and I always stand in the same exact spot, right? So that some children have an auditory signal and some children have a visual signal. And I have to be careful because many times I will stand in that spot by accident just because I'm supervising children or talking to somebody, and I stand in that spot and all of a sudden I have three children come and they're standing in front of me. I'm like, no, they're not. It's not time to line up. I'm just standing in the wrong spot. I will move. So they really do, if you practice that signal, they really do get used to it. In our normal lineup, we usually give the children about a 5-minute warning and we practice, right? What are you supposed to do? Why are the teachers giving us a 5-minute warning? You're giving us a 5-minute warning because that is your notice that we're going to get in line soon. So try to finish up any project that you're working on, right? Get your body ready, get your mind ready, get closer to the line if you need to, right? And then we just kind of, when it's time to line up. I mean, yes, we have an appropriate amount of time and we have some countdowns that we might do if some children are, really dawdling, but it's kind of a gentle lineup. And we do have our immediate lineup signal, and that is a whistle, a bear whistle that we blow. And again, we practice this in the same way that you would practice an earthquake drill, a fire drill. Inside, we practice the whistle drills so that this means if you hear that whistle, drop what you're doing immediately because something is causing us to need to leave the forest immediately for our safety. And we're all going to get in line. We're not going to worry about who's first, who's last. We're going to get in line as quickly as we can. We're going to walk. We're definitely going to walk. We're not running, but we are going to walk quickly. And we are going to get to a clearing as soon as we can. And I can attest that it works because last winter we did have a situation. It was a high wind situation, and every child knew what to do. And we blew that whistle and we got out of the forest, and practicing those drills works. And my last piece of advice is that I'm going to suggest starting small and start with just setting the routines and expectations, right? During our first few weeks of the preschool year, we don't try to do any fancy academics or any type really of learning beyond learning the routines. So that when we are hiking into the forest, we're learning how to hike. When get to that clearing, the only thing that we might practice as a teacher-led activity is how to line up and get back out, or where our boundaries are and how to know where the boundaries are. And this is the same thing that you're doing when you are setting up your routines, boundaries, expectations at the beginning of any school year if you're inside, right? It's the same. Creating that safe environment and managing challenging behaviors is really not a whole lot different whether you are inside or outside. Right? Create expectations, create boundaries, and then most importantly, take the time to teach them to the children. So hope that you get outside. Let me know how it goes. You can always comment on this video. You can get in touch with me through Facebook, through Instagram, through our Wildwood Teaching weekly newsletter. I love to hear how others are managing outdoor nature-based learning with preschoolers. It helps us all. We can learn from each other. And then join me here next week for another free episode of Wildwood Teaching. I will see you there.